Welcome to the Movies to Watch Before You Die podcast. My name is Gab, and I am here with my co-host, cousin, and Diet Coke enthusiast,
Dylan, and I am all of those, but I am a Diet Coke enthusiast the most. Did I say
Diet
Diet Coke?
Yeah.
I am a Diet Coke. I'm not full Coke. I'm not full ounce Jones yet, but I'm getting there.
It's not diesel yet. Speaking of crazy and kooky situations, we are here today to talk about one of my favorite movies that I am proposing as a movie to watch before you die, and that is 2003's The Cat in the Hat, starring Mike Myers. Dylan, I can't wait to hear what you thought about it, but first, why don't you are we still telling people why they're listening to us, or have we let somebody bully us into stopping that?
We'll tell them why they're listening to us very briefly. We both went to film school in some way, you for acting, me for editing. We both love movies, and we hope you love movies too, and hope listening to us talk about movies is enjoyable for you.
Yes. Now, Dylan, why don't you tell the people what this movie is about?
What's this all been about? What am I working toward?
You think you know everything about me, don't you?
I dive at your bottom. I bloody well ought to.
Let me tell you The Cat in the Hat. What's it about? And later I'll tell you whether I'm in or whether I'm out. These kids are normal, not listening to mom's every word. Enter the cat who makes their lives absurd. He's a whole lot and frankly a bit crass, and brings thing one and thing two who are a bit of a pain in the ass. There's the mom who just wants her kids and her job to be cool, and her jerky boyfriend Lawrence who wants to ship off Conrad to military school. There's hijinks and it's up to you whether or not you laugh, or maybe this past box office bomb is one big gaffe.
That is, I can't... end of the episode. Just cut it there. Thank you for listening. And we're retiring as far as I'm concerned. That was I had no expectation of that. Oh my God.
Somebody's got a rhyme, damn it. We're covering some of the Dr. Seuss. There's got to be some rhymes.
Keen Machine is going to love that one. I feel like he'll appreciate it.
I'm all about the rhymes.
Wow.
I write poems for Giselle sometimes, and my poems always sound like Dr. Seuss to begin with. I was like, I was born for this.
You were prepared. Wow. Thank you for that. That was great. And honestly, really good.
Thank you very much. Would you like to hear IMDb's plot summary, which rhymes significantly less?
Please, although I will be disappointed.
Two bored children have their lives turned upside down when a talking cat comes to visit them. Oh, Dylan.
Oh, that's okay. Yeah. Wow. I loved it. And I'm hoping that your enthusiasm is coming from a place of loving the movie. But before we get into it, I think it's important to just let anybody who hasn't seen the movie, I mean, I think it's safe to assume that everybody knows the story of The Cat in the Hat, right?
Now, Gab, you're skipping past something we do after we read the plot summary.
Oh, the taglines.
I got a couple taglines for you, and I think you're going to hate every one of them.
Oh God, I'm so sorry. All right, it's Sunday, guys. It's the Lord's Day. You know what I mean? You don't podcast on the Lord's Day.
I can feel a lack in confidence on the taglines because they threw exclamation points on a lot of these.
Oh boy.
So with the exclamation points, I'm going to really try and exclaim here. Cats with hats only.
What?
Cats with hats only.
Okay.
What does it mean?
Don't bring your cat.
Did it affect the box office receipts that they only could sell tickets to cats with hats?
Yeah.
The classic book comes to life.
Okay, I think maybe that needed an exclamation point versus a period.
Normally, I don't even know if they normally have any punctuation.
True.
I don't know. I think it's like, we really need you, the person reading this poster, to sell this tagline.
Yeah.
Don't mess with the hat. No exclamation point there.
Okay, so that's just, is there a period?
Yes, there is a period. Don't mess with the hat.
Don't mess with the hat. Okay.
The cat is back.
Back from where?
It's his first movie. Where did he?
Yeah.
Where was he?
That's like Backstreet's back. Like,
all right.
Like
the cat is back. All right.
Where? Yeah. Cat is back. All right.
And the last one, which is definitely my favorite, but it was a low bar. The ultimate game of cat and house.
I love that.
That's a good tagline.
Yeah, that's a really good one.
It's a little clever.
Very. All right. Well, anyway, back to, as you know, what I was saying, which is I think everybody knows the story of The Cat in the Hat, right? I mean, we all read Dr. Seuss as kids. It's not super plot heavy, but I do think it's important to note the changes that were made for the movie, just so that everyone is on the same page. And I think those can be summarized pretty briefly. I don't know in the book if the mother is like a single mom with a boyfriend. I mean, probably not, right? Like,
No, I
uh,
think that was all the work of them having to expand this. I meant to reread the book. I had the PDF of it here somewhere, but I did
yeah,
not.
me too. Honestly, I didn't either. But it is important to note that in the movie, Conrad and Sally have a single mother who is dating the next door neighbor. The next door neighbor wants to send Conrad to military school because he's a rambunctious kid that gets in trouble a lot, and he doesn't want to deal with him. The mother is throwing a big party for work that evening, and the house has to be clean. And the babysitter cancels, so they're stuck with a babysitter who's like relatively boring and unreliable. Mrs. Kwan, she falls asleep on the couch, and we don't really hear from her anymore. And so there's a lot of room for them to get themselves into trouble, and in comes the cat in the hat to assist in getting them in trouble. So they wreck the house, havoc ensues, and they have to clean it up before mom gets home.
I think you nailed every bit of that there. Um, I do feel like the movie that this so rubs up against, and obviously they're close in proximity, is the Jim Carrey version of the Grinch, because
Yes.
these two are so intertwined, and they both are taking storybooks that are like they're for children, and they're like what, like 20 to 30 pages maybe for kids, and they're having to expand it to an hour and a half around that. And I
Yeah.
definitely think that is a difficult ask to do.
Yeah.
So I think they do it to varying degrees of success, not revealing my feelings on either movie yet. But I think that's a very important thing to acknowledge, that sometimes you're adapting these books, and I think of like The Lord of the Rings or something, and they're adapting something that's 1,000 pages long into something 2 hours. And this is
Yeah.
very much the opposite, where it's like, I don't know, we're stretching this thing.
Yeah. We got to fill time for
Yeah.
sure. Now, if it's all the same to you, I'd love to get into opinion time.
Let's get into some opinions.
In this critic's opinion,
You know, that's just like your opinion, man.
Well, I have a right to my opinion, and my opinion is you have no right to your opinion.
I want to start by saying that this movie played a pretty big role, like just in terms of nostalgia, played a pretty big role in my like late middle school, early high school age. Um, I was like a very high anxiety kid. I was very anxious about school and social things, and so was my best friend Nikki. You've met Nikki, you know Nikki.
Mhm.
And Nikki and I both had a lot of anxiety. We were always anxious about like things happening at school and whatever, and family things. I mean, around this time is when my brother was born. So I was very like, I had gone from being an only child to like having a baby in my
No, it's
house.
not.
Well, at the time that I was watching it on DVD, yes.
Oh, okay. You did not see this
Yeah.
in the theater?
No, I did not.
Okay. Giselle,
No.
well, I'm sorry. I'm going to interject super fast. I told Giselle we were doing this movie, and she went, I remember seeing that in theaters with my dad. And I was like, Anything more than that? She was like, no.
Interesting.
She
Yeah,
and her
I did
dad were
not
both like,
see it in
nope.
theaters. That's funny. But so anyway, long story short, it was a very transitional period in both of our lives, and we were both very anxious, and we weren't really dealing very well with anything. So we used to sit in her basement and watch this movie over and over and over and over, because it's so silly and so like out of touch with reality that it's very easy to like just be lost in the like the escapism of the movie. And that's what we did, and we just quoted it all the time, and it was just always sort of like a running theme in our friendship, and it was definitely like a really good way to alleviate a lot of that stress, because at this time also there was like Mean Girls, and Mean Girls was so close to like the reality of what we were dealing with all the time, that it was like, oh god, I don't want to live high school when I'm home too, you know what I mean? So anyway, all of that to say that I watched this movie a lot, and it has a huge place in my heart. I think my favorite thing about this movie is all of the sort of like one-liners that the cat has that are very like adult. So one that comes to mind is when he's singing the song, "You can have fun, fun, fun," and all of the like entente, like double entendres in the song. Specifically the part where they're doing like the fake cooking show and he's playing the host who asks all the obvious questions, and the English baker, and he's like holding a knife up to him like, I'll kill you and I'll make it look like an accident. Just so many little moments of um Mike Myers kind of just doing what he does best. And I know that people give Mike Myers a lot of shit for having like two characters that he just repeats over and over
He
again.
does slip into like a Shrek voice during the cooking bit a little bit. Like you totally
Yes.
hear it, but you're like, the cooking bit is probably one of the bits I like the most in the movie. Go on, I'm
so
sorry.
good. Hang in there, baby. I'll have to tell you a story about that. I think but so he does do the same two characters over and over again. I think we can all acknowledge that, but we also kind of collectively let that go because he does them so well. And I think the Fish character played by Sean Hayes, who also plays the mother's boss, is great. I think Alec Baldwin does such a good job in this role. I think the kids are fabulous, but more importantly, it's a movie that is so fast paced and has so many different things going on, and they just cut from wacky scene to wacky scene to wacky scene, and it just like keeps you entertained. It's a quick watch. And I think it does have a lot of like silly moments and lines that stick with you. I mean, even to this day, I'll be like, fired, and just Mrs. Kwan and the Taiwanese Congress. And I think it's so silly and so funny, and it makes me laugh. And I understand that it doesn't really have a lot of merit as a film, but I think it is a really fun, easy watch if you're looking for a way to kill an hour and a half, especially if you have kids around.
I will say, to go back to your Mrs. Kwan thing, Mrs. Kwan is supposed to be like their not cool babysitter, and she puts on Taiwanese Parliament, and the kids are like, Taiwanese Parliament. It's like, I guess, Taiwanese C-SPAN. But I will say, that shit seems super interesting. They're like fighting in the Parliament. I was like, whoa, kids, wait a minute. Check this out.
For real.
I have good things to say and bad things to say. I will say, Alec Baldwin, I do think he was fine in this movie. Like, when we get to the facts, we'll hear some things about Alec Baldwin, but I thought he was good in this movie.
I thought he was great.
Yeah, I like the way, and there are bloopers that I watched, and he seems like he was fun to work with for the kids.
Mm-hmm.
I also found myself thinking, did you ever see Deadpool?
Mm-mm. No, and it's a sensitive subject in our house.
Okay, fair enough. If Ryan
Corey
Reynolds
loves it.
did not exist, or just like wasn't famous in Hollywood, he doesn't need to be wiped from existence.
Mm-hmm.
If he wasn't a famous person, I think Alec Baldwin would have worked as Deadpool. I just feel like he has that like quick delivery, deadpan stuff that he can do very well.
That's a very interesting take. I'm looking forward to hearing what Corey has to say about that.
Yeah, like if they made Deadpool in the 1990s, I think he would have been the perfect choice.
Yeah.
I really liked the production design. I thought this movie looked great until it gets like, there are times where it gets heavy with the CGI near the end that I was like, this doesn't look good. But I mean, they're not trying to make something realistic here. There are times where it's green screen and I'm like, oh, this looks really green screen. But when you were just introduced to Anvil, which I was like, why is that the name of their town? But whatever. It looked great. And I will say I found myself thinking that often, that I was like, ooh, this is a cool, fantastical looking stuff that they did and that they built. Sometimes the doors look huge and I was like, oh, that looks really cool. Or just like the colors. And I think I really appreciated all of that. There are also times where Mike Myers works for me, and there are times where Mike Myers doesn't work for me.
Agreed.
Do you ever watch Hot Ones?
Yes.
Have you seen the Bryan Cranston episode of Hot Ones?
Oh, no. Clips, but not the whole thing.
Okay, there's a clip of Bryan Cranston talking about comedy and drama, and he's talking about, when you do like an SNL or a sketch comedy type thing, it is fine to laugh because the audience knows you're in on it, and it's fun to see the illusion broken. And he was saying, when you're doing scripted film or scripted television, you cannot laugh. If it is funny, you cannot acknowledge it's funny because it takes the onus off the audience to laugh. And same thing with crying, that if the character is doing their best to hold back tears, it makes us want to cry more for them. Or once they do finally break down, we break down with them. And I really I couldn't stop thinking about that because every time Mike Myers says a joke, he laughs at his own joke. And I was like, stop it, cat. Stop it. He would say something.
You mean
like,
the cat laughs at his own jokes?
Yes, it was just a lot of him laughing at his own joke.
Yeah. That's true.
I will say also, and I don't know if it's Mike Myers or if it's the costume. So, because again, a lot of my mind was comparing it to the Grinch. Something doesn't work on the same level. And I don't know if it's that. I think maybe there's less facial makeup for Mike Myers than there was for Jim Carrey, because I think it's more. I know that there's a prosthesis that like went over his nose, just like this area right here. Whereas in the Grinch, I think he's got like a full mask on that just, moves with his face. Also, I think that Jim Carrey's just like, he's got that Gumby face where he can totally change his face much more than maybe that's not Mike Myers' forte. But there is something very different looking about that costume where it just doesn't work the same way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's certainly not bad because it's very impressive. Like the body of the costume and the tail movements are impressive and the hats are impressive and the effects on that were really good. But there is something about the face where it's like, maybe you can tell sometimes that it's just like the white coat of makeup on his face blending with the costume a little bit at times.
Yeah.
I don't know. There was something where it like rubbed against me a little bit.
I could see that. I could definitely see that. It definitely felt like it was more just white makeup on his face, and you could kind of see where like the outline of the cat fur started.
Yeah, occasionally.
Like a hood over him. But then I think there were some other scenes where maybe the makeup was more fresh, or maybe they expanded the prosthesis to cover his cheeks also.
Maybe he had sweat more by one time during the day or something like that too.
Yeah. Because I definitely noticed like it would be good and then weird and then better and then weird again.
Also, the shape of his face is weird to me.
In general?
Well, no, not in general. The costume, the shape of the costume.
Yeah.
Because it does this thing where it gets like super wide and comes to a point. And if you look at the Cat in the Hat in the book, because I did have enough time that I went and looked at the cover of the book.
Of course.
I remembered, I'm like, this isn't what the cat looks like. So his face is just a little like wide looking and weird looking.
Yeah.
Did that affect like my enjoyment of the movie at all? No, it's just a thing I noticed.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Let me see. What else do I have here?
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I wanted to tell a story, if you don't mind.
Yeah, go right ahead.
So this is kind of like an extension of how much this movie like affected me as a young person and how I thought it was just like the epitome of comedy. So in ninth grade, we had to do a project on Of Mice and Men. Obviously, you've read Of Mice and Men. You're familiar, right?
Mm-hmm.
Dramatic book.
Tell me about
dramatic.
the Wabbits.
Yes, exactly. Lenny and George. And so Nikki and I had to do for our English project a video of Of Mice and Men, and it could be anything you wanted. And the two of us, the little creative geniuses that we are, decided we were going to do claymation. Now, I don't know how much you know about claymation, but claymation is not something you can just do at home.
You can. It's going to take a long time.
Well, we didn't realize that you had to. It was pictures, right? Like you have to like take a picture, move it, take a picture. So we just made the figures out of clay, very poorly, I might add, like stick figure style men and like some, whatever, like scenery. And we set it up on my dining room table and then set my dad's camcorder and just read the dialogue to the video of just the still clay. Okay. And we were doing like these very dramatic scenes and we couldn't keep it. We were laughing our asses off while we were reading the dialogue, and we had finally almost gotten it. And we have a shot where Lenny is talking and the claymation of Lenny just falls over. Like it just goes face down and we start laughing our asses off. So we cut to the clip from the Cat in the Hat after he chops his tail off and it goes, hang in there, baby. We cut to that, then pick Lenny back up and start again. And I just, every time something happens where like you're in the middle of something and something falls over or something breaks, I just go right back to hang in there, baby.
Now, let me ask you.
Really stuck with me.
You're using a camcorder in like high school. So you cut to the Cat in the Hat, hang in there, baby. But I'm sure you're not like editing, like you didn't edit in the actual clip of the movie. Did you just record the TV with it?
Recorded the TV. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. 100%. That's exactly what we did. Oh boy. And that was like what, 2000, that had to be 2006.
That
2005,
sounds right.
2006. Yeah. Another thing that sticks with me is at one point he goes, all right, we're gonna fix you. We can do it one of two ways. We can give you a series of painful shots in your abdomen and kneecaps, or a musical number. And Sally goes, how many shots? And the cat goes, I can't even do it like that, like raspy, like, how many shots? Oh, precious.
Oh, is he like,
yeah. And I just don't think the microphone is going to pick that up. But he's like, and Nikki and I do that to each other all the time.
We're both trying so hard. If you can't hear it, we're trying very hard to quietly hiss how many shots at you. Don't say we didn't try.
Your mom does that all the time. It makes me think of her. She
at like the end of a laugh
like that.
Yeah.
And I just if somebody ever said something sarcastic to one of us, we'd go, how many shots? And it's just so good. I love it. So anyway, sorry.
I really liked Dakota Fanning as Sally.
So good. That little girl just had so much. I mean, she still does, right? Like, but
yeah, she still
even
works. She's in The Equalizer 3 with Denzel.
Yeah, I mean, fuck. Look, she's with Denzel. You and I are sitting alone in our apartments.
Giselle's in the other room.
Corey's in the other room, but you know.
I did really like her, and she's talking about her to-do list, and on her to-do list is make a to-do list and to be spontaneous, which I really liked.
Create lasting childhood memories. Every time I make a to-do list, I think about that.
You know what upset me?
Childhood memory.
Watching the poor dog run away, and every time they would just stand there and be like, Nevins is gone. I'm like, go get him.
Find him. Yeah.
Every time.
I know.
Obviously, you know, I grew up with these huge dogs. Pony and Diesel were each like 140, 150 pound dogs. So every time they got out, it's not like you could just stand there and be like, oh shucks, I guess he's running to the neighbor's backyard, because the neighbors were like, what is this beast coming at us? This hellhound.
It was like a grizzly bear.
Oh, I'll never forget the dog. I want to say this was Pony, that this was long enough ago. Pony got out, and he's a Leonberger, which you can, Google it, but it's this massive breed of dog. He is running, taking down on the front yards across the street. And our neighbor, God bless him, he went, I got him. And he went into this like wide stance in front of the dog. And Pony treated him like he was a tackling dummy. He just jumped through this man. It was like, I'm off, motherfucker. I'm going. And the guy was just down. And I don't know if he said anything, or if I think he might have just gone back inside like, fuck this.
That's amazing. Yeah, Pony, I remember sitting on Pony's back.
Yes, Pony used to be so big, and we were so little that we could just sit on Pony, and he was like, it's fine.
Yeah. And he was so gentle with us too. Like, it wasn't his fault. He was so big. He was really gentle with us. But yeah, he would just like slowly walk around the living room while we sat on his back.
The only thing that was his fault is he thought it was hilarious to jump up and poke you directly in the eyeball with his nose.
Yes.
And he did it to every single member of the family at some point. And like, he would like, I don't know, I think it was like Dastardly Dog. He would do the equivalent of like a laugh. He'd be like, like afterwards, he'd like walk away like, got him. Like, you're like, fuck.
I also remember your mom would make like homemade treats for him. And so anytime the oven door was opened, it was like a big fucking deal.
I thought of it because you were talking about us sitting on the dog. I remember my dog always got excited when my grandma came over. And my grandma came while I was sitting on the dog's back. And he got up with me on his back. And I swear to God, there was like 1 second where I was balanced, and then you could just watch me just like tip over. Like, there was no handout to stop me at all. It was just like right onto my fucking head. I went donk, like, oh. And the dog was like, what are you doing? Like, it's like, oh.
Well, there was no saddle. Like, there were no handles to hold on to it. We were barebacking on the dog.
I also remember there was a day where I did sit on him, and I guess it was just the point where he like, I think I remember him being like, all right, that's enough. You're a little big now. I was like, come on, Pony. And he was like, you got to get off.
Like, it's been enough.
He was like, you're like 13. You're getting pretty big. Like, cut me some slack.
The little kid sitting on Santa's lap, like, no.
Last thing about dogs, you said Lenny and George, and it made me think of Giselle's dog Jack and my dog Diesel. Together we used to call them Lenny and George, because Diesel was like this big doofy bastard, and Jack was like smaller and always felt like he was the clever one putting plans in Diesel's ear, and they were just very much Lenny and George together. Like, you could picture God. Diesel going like, tell me about the wabbits, Jack. Like,
yeah, Diesel was very different from Pony.
Oh yes, Diesel was terrified of everything. Pony was very much a people person. Like, Pony would walk down the street like he was a celebrity, and like people would come up and be like, "You got to put a saddle on that thing," and you'd be like, "Yeah, because he's a pony." And like my mom
Yeah.
had the questions and answers all lined up already, and he loved people. We would take him just to like busy main street areas just so that he could be like, "Hey, how you doing?" Like he was very much like the Tom Cruise of dogs without like
Yes.
the sociopathy. Meanwhile, Diesel was like, "Mom, just keep me next to you, please. God forbid somebody comes up to me, they could hurt me." Like,
Yeah, like just like kind of pathetic. And especially for like such a big fucking dog.
the only place he wasn't pathetic like that is in the car. For some reason, he developed this feeling in the car of like, okay, I've got to guard this. This is our one possession that I need to guard. So people would come to the car and he'd be like, "I'll fucking kill you. Don't you come near it." Like he turned into the Cat in the Hat of the cooking segment of that. He was like, "I'll kill you and make it look like an accident."
Oh my God.
Like the first time somebody came up to my parents and was like, "He was really aggressive. I came up to him in the car." They were like, "No, he wasn't." Like they totally dismissed this man. And then one day they saw it, they were like, "Oh shit, this is a problem."
Yeah,
Literally.
yeah.
Somebody could come up to him in the car and he'd be like, "I'll fucking kill you. Don't fucking do it. Don't come near this car." And then I would let Diesel out of the car and like have him on the leash and be like, "Hey, good to see you. In this light, you look great." Like it was like, what happened?
Yeah, it's funny.
I've strayed so far from this movie. Oh, you know what line I caught funny? "I wish I had a different mom. Well, sometimes I wish the same thing." And I'm like, what did her mom do to her?
Yeah. I know. I said to Corey, I'm like, that's like when you tell someone you love them and they go, "Me too." And it's like, what?
Am I just talking to Terrell Owens? Like, I love me some me? Like, what does that
Yeah.
mean? It also reminded me of like the tame version of, you've never seen Kramer versus Kramer, have you?
Of course I have.
Okay. It took me back to that scene where he goes, "I hate you." And Dustin Hoffman goes, "I hate you back, you little shit." Like
Yes.
it's the very PG version of that.
The cameo from Beans from Even Stevens.
Oh my God, I totally noticed that too. And I was like, holy
Yep.
shit, that's Beans that the
It's
cat is trying to
Beans.
kill.
I love it. I love it. I think the repo team coming and repossessing the TV is hilarious.
Oh, Lawrence's TV? That was very
Yeah.
quick. Um, I like Lawrence in general. I don't feel like there's that much to do. Like he keeps popping up and I'm like, is there going to be more to this subplot where like he made it sound like he was going to this meeting and then he was just inside. I was like, oh, is he doing something nefarious? And I was like, oh no, I think he's just lazy.
Yeah, he just doesn't really have a job. Like he's not who he says he is. He's really the one who should be going to boarding school, military school. But I do love the scene where he's leaving the house for the first time and the only person who sees him is Conrad and he's like marching backwards and clicking his heels and saluting and I just think it's so funny. He does
Yeah.
such a good job.
I did like those moments where it's like just him and Conrad and he's like being a dick.
Yeah. Or
Um,
with Sally, Angel, Princess, nobody likes a suck up.
I did really like the moment too where he goes, "All right, princess," and she goes, "What is it?" She's talking about a monarchical society. A princess doesn't really have any power. I'd rather be part of the parliament. And he's like,
Yeah.
okay, like yeah, Sally was really good.
So good. I also love the fish. When the fish is like, a dog starts barking and everybody says, "Oh, little Timmy is stuck in the well," but a fish speaks in plain English.
I really liked the fish. I liked the look of the fish. That blended very well with the world, I felt like. And I never came up against that in a way that I do with some of the other like CGI type effects where the fish, I was like, oh, this looks great.
Yeah.
Um, a lot of this we're talking about though is all before the cat arrives.
Yes.
The cat, he doesn't really arrive in any sort of like interesting way. He's just like upstairs all of a sudden, and there's nothing. I thought it was going to be like, and maybe it's heavy-handed and cliched what I'm talking about, but I thought the kids were going to be like, "I don't care about mom's thing. I hope she never comes back." You know what I mean? That type of thing, or like something big, something weightier than just like, "You're in trouble, young man." Like it doesn't feel like. I'm like, why is the cat here now? You know what I mean?
Well, I feel like you're forgetting the weight of Conrad basically being like, "Well, I'm going to boarding school anyway."
I don't feel like the movie gives it enough weight.
Okay.
No, again, like this isn't like, is that the biggest thing I jive up against? No. I did also really like though that once the cat arrives, I like the 2 or 3 times where they like run into him and he's like, "What are we hiding from?" Ah, and then like
Yeah,
I
yeah.
like the one time where he goes, "Run and scream, run and
Yeah,
scream."
that's
Okay,
I love that line. Scream and run.
I
Scream
find
and run.
yes, I like the cat the most when he is not like when he's telling a joke, but he's not acting like it was a joke. You know what I mean? When he's just reacting to things. That's why in the cooking segment, I love when he chops his own tail off because like he is not laughing at that. He's like, did not mean to do that. You know what I mean? That
Yeah,
type of thing.
yeah. Or with the lawyers. I love when the lawyers are there. I'm not saying we're gonna sue. I'm just saying we have a case.
I did like the lawyers. That was cute. I was very upset when the cat goes, "I'm not so good with the rhyming." I was like, "That's your whole thing. Your whole
Yeah.
thing is rhyming, cat. We're in a Seuss movie. You fucking rhyme."
Yeah, but I like that they didn't try to rhyme. I think if they tried to rhyme the whole thing, it would have been. I mean, he had a musical number that personally I think is awesome, and we got to talk about that. But I think it was good. I mean, listen, they just made a fucking Mario movie, and he doesn't have a fucking accent. So bigger crimes have been committed here.
Did you see the Mario movie?
No.
He has more of an accent than the cat ever attempts to rhyme. You know what I mean?
I suppose.
The cat gives it like 2 rhymes and then is like, "I'm not so good with the rhyming." And I was like, is it just that you guys didn't feel like doing it, or is it just that Mike Myers could improvise more?
Yeah, well, that's the thing, right? Like that's why you hire somebody like him.
Yes, even with, again, I go back to the Grinch. Is the movie rhyming constantly? No. But what it does do is it has Anthony Hopkins, I think, doing that narration, and he rhymes during those narration moments. And that works. You know what I mean? Again, this one thing is not the thing that I'm like, I hated it because of that. I'm just saying.
Yeah, that's fine. Let's talk about the musical number.
Well, there's 2 musical numbers, one longer, one more brief. Are you talking about in the beginning?
Yeah.
Okay.
So again, as I said, the cat says we can deal with your lack of fun in 2 ways. Series of painful shots in your abdomen and kneecaps, or a musical number. And Sally goes, "How many shots?" And he goes, "How many shots?" And then he starts singing. And he comes out dressed essentially like I can't think of her name.
I don't know if he's supposed to be anyone particular.
Oh yeah, the I always go to like the Chiquita Banana Woman, but that's not her name. She has a name.
I don't know who you're talking about. I will say, if you Google Chiquita Banana Lady, it does look just like the cat. Like it looks exactly like what you're talking about.
That's exactly what he's doing. And he starts out singing with that little accent. He's got the little like finger clicky things, the little finger symbols, and it's hilarious. And then the song I think is great. We could have fun, 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 da 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 da, son of fun, fun, fun. There goes the rain. Here comes the sun, sun, sun. It's so cute and funny, and I love the like. And then it gets Dr. Seussy, right? You can da 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 like a da 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 da. You can da 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 dish like I'm balancing this fish. You can da 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 da. And it gets Seussy.
You know when else it gets very Seussy?
When?
I'll come back to the song in 2 seconds. During the end song, when thing 1, thing 2, and the cat are all on their machines and it's got all the hands coming out of it. That's like perfectly Seussy, and I love that.
Yeah.
I will say the song picks up by the end, but in the beginning, you can so feel how ADR'd the song is, and like it feels very unenthusiastic. Do you know what I mean by ADR?
No.
ADR is like, obviously that's Les Mis is the non-ADR where they just recorded the singing while they were acting in the moment. And this is maybe Mike Myers did a version of the song on set, and then they had him afterwards record it and dubbed it over so that it was like, well, we want a cleaner version of him singing where he's not doing everything. Right. Yeah. And it just sounds a little unenthusiastic to me.
Okay. I hear that. I just think the first portion, are you talking about the beginning where he's like, there was this cat I knew back home where I was bred. He never listened to a single thing his mother said. In the accent,
about most of the beginning. Like, I'm thinking you sound way more enthusiastic than he did. He's like, there was this cat I knew and blah, 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 blah. Like, I'm like,
okay, all right. Okay. Yeah, I suppose. I do love the joke at the end of that where they're like, so they took him to the vet and cut off both his and like, yeah, I don't know. As a kid, I thought that was hilarious.
I will say there is one joke I like that's shortly after the song where they throw the fish in the toilet and the fish goes, "This is where they buried my brother."
Yes. And then it comes back later. He's like, "You want to go back to the toilet?" And he's like, "On second thought, it's such a beautiful day."
Yes. Um, let's talk about another choice by Mike Myers as the cat.
Okay.
This is right up there with the laughing at his own jokes as things that I was not a fan of.
Okay.
He does this constant arm flailing every time he's walking that I'm like, it's not working, homie. Why is this the move? Like,
Yeah, I don't think that bothers me. I feel like it would be weirder if he was just walking with his arms down at his sides, because to me it's like the cat is very flamboyant, but he's also a cat, and so if they're going to have him walking on his hind legs, I feel like it I don't know, like it would just be weird if he were like swinging his arms like a person.
I'm not asking him to walk normal. I'm just asking him to have more than one version that he's doing constantly of it. You know what I mean?
Okay.
There's a
Okay.
laziness to the arm flail that I feel like watching it, I'm like, this was just the thing I'm going to do every time I'm walking. Because he also could have been sauntering. You know what I mean? Like cats.
Yeah.
As someone who grew up with a fuck ton of cats also do this thing where they are like, there's the rapid cat walk, there's the slow cat walk, there's the cat strut. You know what I mean? Like cats have many versions of these things that they do that are all cat-like. And
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that was like, again, not a huge problem for me, just a thing I noticed. Just a thing I rubbed up against a little bit.
That's fair.
So let me ask you something. You do like the adult jokes.
I do.
They're just so unsubtle. Like the dirty hoe thing, I'm like, this is a children's movie, isn't it? Like I love in a kid's movie when they do a joke that like as an adult, I'm like, I totally didn't notice that as a kid. And that is so filthy.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Like we were talking about don't tell mom the babysitter's dead. And it's like every woman over 25 should have a cucumber. As a kid, that was way over my head. As an adult, I'm like, what the fuck is she saying there? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I feel like it will go over a kid's head because it's like,
but it's not like a subtle thing. Like as a kid, that went over my head. But my explanation to myself and don't tell me the babysitter's dead is, oh, because she said you put cucumbers on your eyes.
Yeah. So it's not a brilliantly formulated joke. But that line, again, another line that we used to say all the time, dirty hoe. And then in the accent, I'm sorry, baby, I love you.
Okay.
I love it. I think it's great.
I also feel like, oh wait, I wrote this right after the thing about beans showing up. The weirdest thing that shows up, Paris Hilton?
Oh yeah, yep.
What the fuck? I was like, huh? I was like, that's the most 2003 thing possible. What?
Mm-hmm. Very.
I thought she was going to do a song with him. I thought maybe the cat and Paris Hilton would do Stars Are Blind together or something.
Oh, I wish. Don't freaking tease me with a good time.
I feel it's very sad to me that I know that song, and I know that song well by this point.
Everybody knows that song. Everybody does.
I didn't until I was in a relationship. I had avoided all that.
She's teaching you well. You got to know.
I do feel like I would have liked to see a version where, as much as I wasn't like a huge fan of Thing 1 and Thing 2 in this, but I would have liked to have seen Thing 1 and Thing 2 more involved in the sense that Thing 1 and Thing 2 are supposed to be metaphorically Sally and Conrad.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Oh, they just do the opposite of what you asked them to. You know what I mean? So I would have loved to have seen, they see Beans at Sally's friend's party. I would have loved to have seen the kids love Thing 1 and Thing 2. Everyone wants to hang out with Thing 1 and Thing 2. And Sally and Conrad just like being unable to get it. Also, I would have liked to have seen the cat sort of giving them more options where the kids are choosing the wrong thing to do at times and the cat is sort of encouraging them. And then they realize, like, they do realize it by the end, but them telling the cat, like, you can't just have fun all the time. And seeing them come to that realization more than just like the cat sort of telling us at the end. From a screenwriting standpoint. Let me see here. Oh, a line I did really like from Alec Baldwin. They're talking about military school and he just goes, you know, Joan, they don't beat them every day.
Yes. Yeah. I love that.
I did right here. And this might be somewhat revealing about my feelings on the cat. Alec Baldwin turning and seeing the cat is how we all should feel seeing the cat. And the movie makes me wish I was Alec Baldwin falling into the abyss.
Oh, God.
It's just that, like, that might have given up the game for me a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm not going to read any more of my comments here.
Yeah. Let's get to the facts, I guess.
I want the truth.
Face the facts, dukes.
Facts have no place with an organized religion.
Let's start with our reviews. Rotten Tomatoes, the tomato meter gives it a 10% with an average rating of 3.4 out of 10. 16 fresh reviews and 148 rotten. The audience score is much more forgiving, 57%, with an average score of 3.2 out of 5.
These people don't want to have fun.
IMDb gives this a 4 out of 10. It was directed by Bo Welch, who also directed 5 episodes of A Series of Unfortunate Events, 2 episodes of The Tick, and 1 episode of Secret Agent Man. That's all he's directed besides this. But he was a big production designer before that, which makes sense. Like I said, the production design is one of my favorite parts of the movie. And he was the production designer for The Birdcage, Men in Black, The Lost Boys,
Whoa,
Edward Scissorhands, Beetlejuice, and Thor.
Wow.
And I think that makes a lot of sense because when I think of all those movies, I'm like, yeah, all those movies look great and have really cool production design. And that makes total sense. Because if there's anything that I'm like, oh, that is what really makes this movie, it's the production design and how things look. I think things look great.
Yeah.
The movie is written by Alec Berg and David Mandel, who also wrote the shows Barry, Silicon Valley, Clerks, the TV show, 33 episodes of Seinfeld. And obviously it's based on the book by Dr. Seuss. But I was like, these guys do not jive with what this movie is.
Wow. Batty.
The movie star.
No Hank.
Should I get 1 babka, 2 babka? I love No Hank. If you haven't seen Barry, watch Barry.
Please.
Although it's really funny in the first 2 seasons, and then it just becomes terribly anxious. So just know that going into it.
I still haven't seen the 3rd season. I keep saying I'm going to rewatch from the beginning.
3rd season's a tough watch. It's really good, but tough.
Yeah.
The movie stars Mike Myers as the cat, who you may know from Shrek, Austin Powers, and So I Married an Axe Murderer. Spencer Breslin as Conrad, who you may know from The Kid, The Happening, and The Santa Claus 2, which I feel like I knew Spencer Breslin from 1,000 things, but he's not in as many things as I thought he was.
Yeah, he's just very memorable.
I don't know if it's like his manner of speaking or something, but he is very memorable, and he was a really good kid actor.
I also think sometimes he's easy to confuse with Angus T. Jones.
That's the kid from 2.5 Men?
Yeah.
I get why you say it. I don't think I do that, but I get it.
Yeah, they're just like kind of similar. Similar time period, similar age.
Yeah. Dakota Fanning as Sally, who you may know from Man on Fire, War of the Worlds, or from the Twilight Saga. Alec Baldwin as Lawrence, who you may know from Glengarry Glen Ross, which it's weird. Some of the credits on IMDb credit them differently than like what I would think their character should be. Because Alec Baldwin on IMDb is Quinn.
Yeah.
Which I guess his name is Larry Quinn, but I'm like,
yeah,
they'd never refer to him as like, hey, it's Quinn.
He's credited in the actual end credits as Quinn.
Yeah, that's what IMDb's taking it from, but it's weird.
Yeah.
You may know Alec Baldwin from Glengarry Glen Ross, Beetlejuice, and The Departed. Kelly Preston, who is credited as the mom, but she had a name. Her name's Joan Walden.
Yeah.
Which she says it multiple times. When she answers the phone, she says her name, right?
Yeah,
like
but she's still mom.
True. Kelly Preston is the mom, who you may know from Jerry Maguire, Death Sentence, and the movie Twins. Amy Hill is Mrs. Kwan, who is not really given a lot to do in this movie, but is great in movies like 50 First Dates, Cheaper by the Dozen, and Big Fat Liar. Sean Hayes as Mr. Humberflube and the Fish, who you may know from 246 episodes of Will and Grace, The Three Stooges, and Cats and Dogs. And lastly, Dan Castellaneta was the voice of The Things, which you may know as Homer Simpson.
Yeah.
The music was by David Newman, who I only mentioned because I think we mentioned him once before, who also did the music for like 90% of movies that you saw as a kid. Daddy Daycare, Scooby-Doo, Duplex, Bedazzled, Galaxy Quest, Never Been Kissed, Jingle All the Way, Matilda, Operation Dumbo Drop, and The Sandlot.
So every movie ever.
Yes. The movie was nominated for Razzies, which Razzies are, your bad. It's the anti-Oscars for Worst Picture, Worst Actor, Worst Supporting Actor, Worst Supporting Actress, Worst Screen Couple for Myers and Thing 1 or Thing 2, which I do feel like by a point the Razzies were just piling on.
Yeah.
Worst Director, Worst Screenplay, Worst Comedy of our first 25 years, and it won the Worst Excuse for an Actual Movie.
Ouch.
Fucking harsh, bro.
Yeah, that's OD.
I will say on the other side, at the 2004 Hollywood Makeup Artist and Hairstylist Guild Awards, it won Best Character Makeup for a feature, Best Character Hairstyling for a feature, and Best Special Makeup Effects for a feature. So there is credit to be given to this movie, which is being very harshly treated.
Yeah.
The movie had a budget of $109 million and grossed $134 million.
All right.
That's real bad.
Yeah, but it wasn't a total flop.
That's a total flop. You normally want to gross at least twice your budget. But
Yeah,
we've
but
done
at
a
least
lot
some movies don't even make back what they spent.
They did make back what they spent because the budget doesn't account for what they spent on marketing.
Shut up. It should.
Okay. The critics' consensus, filled with double entendres and potty humor, this cat falls flat. Some reviews, Roger Ebert gave it 2 stars. Dr. Seuss's The Cat in the Hat is a triumph above all of production design. That's partly because the production design is so good and partly because the movie is so disappointing. Michael Atkinson from The Village Voice comes scarily close to being the most unendurable Hollywood creation of the last dozen years. Again, perhaps a bit much.
Yeah, like, listen, I know that this was not like a gem of a movie, and I know that a lot of people were disappointed, especially because, as you continue to say, it is very easy to compare to The Grinch, which came first, yes?
Yes, which also I don't think was like critically beloved, but I think it definitely had a better reception than this did.
Yeah. So, I mean, as much as like this is just a kid's movie and it's not like meant to be an Oscar baity kind of film, like they're really going into a point where like it's just not that serious, bro.
Yeah. What else do we have here? A.O. Scott from the New York Times. A vulgar, uninspired lump of poisoned eye candy that Universal has the temerity to call Dr. Seuss's The Cat in the Hat.
Okay, well, Dr. Seuss was a Nazi, so like relax.
Is that true?
I actually don't know. Once it left my mouth, I was like, that may not be true. But
Are you
I
thinking
think
of
he
Walt
was
Disney? Like, oh my God.
No, I do think look it up really quick. Was Dr. Seuss a Nazi and or a Nazi sympathizer? I'm pretty sure he was. I think they like recently tried to cancel Dr. Seuss for some Nazi related reason.
No. It's just there were some racially insensitive drawings in some Dr. Seuss books. That's what it was. Particularly of Asian people.
But not Nazis?
I don't think so. Maybe my quick Google missed that, but that's not what I saw. You keep Googling, I'll keep reading. Bruce Westbrook from the Houston Chronicle said it's a barrel of lunatic laughs, which I think was a positive review. That's why I tried to put it there. Tom Long from the Detroit News, this is my last review. Small kids should love it, and parents may find themselves pleasantly amused.
Okay, hold on. During World War II, Dr. Seuss tried to slay anti-Semitism, but also promoted racism. Yeah, so yeah,
I think that's talking about what I'm talking about also. That
a lot of
promoting
Asian
racism
stuff
against Asian people.
Yeah,
which is not good.
Yeah.
Not good at all.
Well, Dr. Seuss was Jewish, right? Now that I think about it.
I don't know.
Whatever. Anyway, listen, it is what it is.
He was raised as a Missouri Synod Lutheran.
Oh, somebody actually told me recently, you know those annoying people that always try to like tell you a fact and you're like, I didn't ask for this, that it's pronounced Seuss?
What are you talking about?
It's not pronounced Seuss.
Bullshit. He's Dr. Seuss.
That's what some moron told. I hope it wasn't Corey, but that's what somebody told me. And I was like, first of all, it doesn't matter. Like, okay, if that's how it's pronounced, like in German, whatever. Maybe it was my friend Haley because her boyfriend is from Germany. But like in America, the only place that matters.
Oh my God. This is
it's
America.
Pronounced Seuss. Yeah.
Yeah, the culture has deemed him Dr. Seuss. It is done. We're not calling him Dr. Seuss.
Yeah. I think it was Haley. But anyway.
Well, Haley's wrong and she should feel wrong.
Yeah, agreed.
I guess maybe she's technically right, but fuck that. All right. We got a bunch of fun facts here. Well, some of these fun facts are not so fun. You'll hear which ones.
I'm excited.
Tim Allen was the original choice for the cat, which is like years before this was made.
I don't think that would have been good.
Dr. Seuss's widow, after this movie, banned any live action adaptations of Dr. Seuss's work.
Wow.
Which is weird to me because I'm like, why is animation still okay to you? Like, I don't get if this movie was that bad that you're like, never again live action, I'm like, why are you still like, but animated, it's fine.
Yeah.
The dog Nevins was played by 4 different dogs and 1 stuffed fake dog. I just thought that was
Huh.
cool.
Yeah.
They actually built the town for the most part. There is a time-lapse video of the really impressive construction, and I'm going to put that in the description, but it is very cool seeing how many of these houses they built, like the street that they live on, they actually built. You know what I mean?
Wow.
Oh, and I did also notice, this isn't really a fact, I guess I just wrote this here. I watched the interviews for the movie, and Mike Myers does the same thing in interviews where like he'll tell something and then he's laughing at his own thing before you even are. And I'm like, is
Oh
this just a
no.
crutch he has where it's like, if I laugh at the joke, you're going to laugh at it with me, right?
Yeah. Side note, is this the last thing that he did before kind of like disappearing off the face of the earth?
No, I'm pretty sure he's got a couple of other major bombs after this. And I think, is one of the Austin Powers movies after this? Is Goldmember after this movie?
Oh, it might be. What happened to him? Actually, I think Corey interacted with him at one point
He
at
still
Brunello
works.
Cucinelli.
He still does a lot of Shrek stuff, actually. Like, there's been a lot of
Seriously?
Shrek animated stuff. So, hang on one second here. No, I'm wrong. All 3 Austin Powers movies are before The Cat in the Hat. Oh, no. I'm not wrong. That was a different video thing. Okay, yes, all the Austin Powers movies are before it. Shrek 2 is after it. Shrek the Third, Shrek the Fourth, Shrek the Halls, all the Shrek stuff. Also after that is The Love Guru, and I think The Love Guru was like the big live action bomb that sort of drove him away for a while.
That sounds familiar. The Love Guru.
It's a major box office disaster bomb. Like, if you look up the trailer for it, you'll be like, oh, this looks awful. He does have a small part in Inglourious Bastards after that, like a very small part.
Oh yeah, I remember that. That was such a pleasant surprise.
Yeah, and he's still like, he does a couple things. I know he had a show for Netflix called The Pentaveret, but he doesn't show up a lot live action anymore. But I think he's probably rolling in that Trek dough. I don't know.
Oh, for sure. But I'm pretty sure, and I'm Corey's annoying. I said, "Can you come here if you've ever met Mike Myers? Didn't you meet him at Brunello?" And he wrote back, "No, I never met him." But Ricky Gervais goes to the Equinox on 63rd Street. So
What is the
thanks.
correlation?
There is none. He just wanted to throw that out there. I'm going to say this loud enough so that I think he hears me, but I really thought that he knew for a fact that Mike Myers needed suits that were so big because he gained so much weight that he was like not coming out of the house anymore.
I don't know. We don't gotta talk about Mike Myers' weight. Now I feel bad for Mike Myers. You're gonna
I'm
feel
just
bad
saying.
for him, and I'm shitting on the man already.
I'm just saying, I think that he like kind of let himself go and didn't want to do any like live action stuff anymore. I could be wrong. That was the story that I thought I was told.
If I was rolling in that voiceover money, I would do the same thing. But quite frankly, I'm rolling in no money and I'm already doing it.
Yeah, honestly.
Here's some of the less fun facts. According to Mike Myers, less than a month before the film was released, the producers made plans for a sequel based on the book sequel, The Cat in the Hat Comes Back. However, Audrey Geisel, Dr. Seuss's widow, was so appalled by this movie she decided to reject future live action adaptations, and the sequel was also canceled.
Yeah. Hang on one second.
Hey, what's up, Dylan?
Corey, are you just here to tell me about people who aren't Mike Myers?
So basically, one time Mike Myers, we had sent him some clothes, but it's true, he wasn't making public appearances, and we don't know why, but we sent him all the biggest sizes we had in the store at the time, which was a 56 Italian, which translates to a 46 American. But Mike Myers is like, Austin Powers is not a big dude, right? So he was if I saw Austin Powers, I would assume that he's like maybe a medium at best, maybe even a small, because he's not a big guy. But we were sending him these huge sizes, but he never actually came in, and they didn't work out. And we don't really know the real reason why. I guess they just didn't really fit well, but we just remember being like surprised that those were the sizes that Mike Myers needed, because you really wouldn't associate with him with being such a large man. Like we had.
Well, fat bastard.
Well, yeah.
I don't know what you think
Well,
he did during those movies, but he didn't like film it himself and then gain 200 more pounds to film Fat Bastard.
we we had like NBA players that would come in that were the sizes that we needed to send him. You know what I mean? So it just didn't.
Yeah, but they're also like, I'm sure they were like 7 feet tall. So there's a difference in like tall size versus wide size. But
right, but like for another person, no, there were just these big Russian guys from Brooklyn that were all like a double XL. A 56 translates to a double XL, pretty much.
So he got fat.
Yeah,
I guess I don't know. I feel like even you're saying like 46 American, and I'm like, 46 American isn't like nightmarishly huge. Like,
no.
Maybe he felt bad about himself. I don't know. You guys are just making me feel really bad for Mike Myers now.
No.
No. It's just bigger than you would think Mike Myers would be, right? Like he made a joke about a guy, and Fat Bastard. The joke is that he's fat, right? So you,
yeah. I feel like Corey's like he brought the spot himself.
No, you just wouldn't associate Mike Myers with being that. I mean, Wayne's World, right? Like you wouldn't associate him with being that big of a dude.
Corey's making me think of like Law and Order, though. He's like, Mike Myers opened the door and we're walking through it. Like he opened the door to call himself fat.
All I know is that he stopped doing public appearances right around the time that he got fat. So you put it together. And
yeah, that would feel really bad for Mike Myers. He felt really insecure.
He does feel insecure.
I love Mike Myers, by the way. I just want to say that.
Yeah, he's great. Everybody loves him. I mean, now listen, I also want to go back to what I said earlier, which is that everybody loves Mike Myers and he's great, and we all just let it go that he only has two characters.
Everybody is the same character all the time.
All the time.
I'm about to tell you some people who don't love Mike Myers and some of these fun facts, so we'll get to that in a minute.
Okay.
I don't want to hear it now because I'm going to listen to it.
Okay.
Thank you. Right. I knew you told me that he had gotten fat.
I hope Mike Myers. Yeah, I hope Mike Myers is doing okay now. Poor Mike Myers.
Sorry. Caveat: Ricky Gervais not fat.
Okay, I don't care.
Same. All right, let's go. Tell me some facts.
All right. According to the cast and crew, working with Mike Myers on this film was a horrible, nightmarish experience. Actors would wait for hours for Myers to come out of makeup. He only spoke to his handlers and director Bo Welch during the downtime on set. He had his handlers dress his trailer, and his area was all covered with tenting because he didn't want anybody seeing him. He also had a male assistant whose sole job was to feed him chocolates from a Tupperware container, and the film ended up having long and pointless additional takes of scenes because he overruled Bo Welch on whether they were good enough or not.
Okay, so that sounds like somebody who stopped coming out in public because they were, say it with me, too fat.
I'm struggling now because I'm between two areas. These facts make him seem like a dick, and you're making me feel bad for him. Just let me think he's a dick.
I mean, listen, you know what this sounds like? Oh my God. Have you ever listened to the podcast Missing Richard Simmons?
No.
Stop what you're doing right fucking now. Like this podcast is over. Yes, he was for years. He would not come out of his house. He was in his house. There were all of these rumors that his housekeeper, Consuela, I think her name was like holding him hostage.
I think that's more like one of those random celebrity myths we do, like saying Richard Gere shoved a gerbil up his ass. Like that's not true. It's just a thing. Like it's a thing we all made up collectively and we're all okay with. Because Richard Simmons, he was doing, you know what he used to do? NFL top 10s. There's one NFL top 10 that he did about ageless wonders. I'm not making this up.
Well, then when was he in his house for like 10 years without ever coming out? He wouldn't come out to get the mail, nothing.
I'm sure he came out. Do you think there was somebody watching his house for 10 straight years to make sure Richard Simmons wasn't getting his mail?
His family members were like, he isn't leaving. And the rumor was that he had gained all this weight because he was like the fitness guy. He was the like sweating to the oldies. And then he gained like all this weight and wouldn't come out because he didn't want people to know. Dylan, I'm not making this up. Like, Google it.
Okay.
Richard.
Google says Richard Simmons breaks silence, tells Post he's living. Poor Richard Simmons. I just feel bad for people now. Richard Simmons broke a 6-year silence.
6-year silence of being in his house.
He's 74. You know what this reminds me of? Who was it that we caught? I want to say that it was Jack Nicholson recently who, like, they had a picture of him on a balcony and they were like, look at how Jack Nicholson looks. I almost called him Jack Simmons. Look at how Jack Nicholson looks. And I'm like, he's 80 something years old. Let him look how he wants to look. If I were Richard Simmons, I wouldn't want to be the public eye either, because you know what? No fitness guru, like, he's not going to be ripped at 74 years old. He's old and tired. Leave him be.
Right. Listen. I'm not saying that the reason Richard Simmons didn't come out of his house was because he gained weight. I'm just saying that was one of the thoughts, that like maybe he was ashamed as the person who was known for like being fit and sweating and taking care of yourself, that maybe he didn't want people to know that he had, like, you know, gotten back on the sauce and was fat.
It's pronounced Seuss.
Fuck you. I don't know, but all I know is it's an incredibly interesting podcast, and it's similar to Mike Myers, who refuses to do any public appearances. Now, Richard Simmons was notoriously a very nice guy, and it sounds like Mike Myers ended up being a total dick who had a guy on his staff that had to feed him chocolate out of a Tupperware. What?
I wonder how much you get paid just to feed Mike Myers chocolates. It's like, who was it? Was it Snoop Dogg that was hiring for like a $40,000 salary, somebody just to roll joints for him?
Yep.
Which, you know, if you do what you love, does it really work?
Yeah, amen.
Here's another one. Mike Myers was legally obligated to star in this film. In 1998, Myers signed a 2-picture deal with Universal and Imagine Entertainment to write and star in a big screen adaptation of his Dieter character from SNL titled Sprockets. Myers was to be paid $21 million for his efforts, $1.5 million for the script, $20 million for his acting, $21.5 million. He was originally going to be paid $10, but the success of the first Austin Powers hiked up his salary. In June of 2000, during pre-production, he announced that he wasn't happy with the script and refused to move forward as he simply needed 2 more months to write it. He already had written 14 drafts of the film over 2 years. Universal, banking on Sprockets as its summer 2001 tentpole, and Imagine Entertainment saw it as a breach of contract. Universal filed for $3.8 million of recouped production costs. The Imagine suit demanded $30 million and called Myers egomaniacal, irresponsible, and selfish. Myers countersued for $20 million for fraud, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and defamation, also stating he had been emotionally traumatized by the studio's thug-like, outrageous, and reckless conduct. Representatives from DreamWorks ultimately helped negotiate an out-of-court settlement between Myers, Universal, and Imagine, with Myers agreeing to do a film for Universal and Imagine in place of Sprockets, The Cat in the Hat.
That's devastating. He didn't even want to do it.
He was legally obligated to do it. I've just got like 3 more things. $55,000 worth of props were stolen during production, including an 8-foot pair of glasses, a 6-foot by 4-foot by 8-foot anvil, a 4-foot key, and a golf ball 7 feet in diameter that weighed more than 200 pounds. The stolen props were later found in a mall dumpster covered in graffiti.
That's insane.
Kudos to like whatever reckless teenagers managed to steal a 200-pound golf ball.
I hope they watch this movie and learn their lesson.
That they did the right thing.
Shut up.
Everyone in the movie drives an electric car except for Lawrence, who drives a gas car.
What a bad person.
And last thing, Rick Baker was attached to do the makeup effects for this film following his success on How the Grinch Stole Christmas. Baker did designs and even a makeup test on himself, but due to Mike Myers' difficult behavior during pre-production meetings, he left the project. A bake-off was held for the job. A bake-off. And Steve Johnson, who was one of Baker's earliest apprentices, got the position. The final makeup does include many elements from Rick Baker's original design, but simplified to just a small muzzle appliance, paint, and a cowl with animatronic ears.
Huh.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting but strange.
That is so heartbreaking, but it does beg the question. Do you think Mike Myers was just a dick because he didn't want to do this movie? Or do you think he's just a dick as a person all the time?
I think that's a great question. I think I would have to be looking into other like Mike Myers movies to see what it said.
I'd like to know.
He seems really dicky on this movie, though.
I'm going to Google. Keep talking. I'm going to Google, is Mike Myers a dick?
Yeah, I think that was all the facts that I had. I'm trying to check and see if there was anything else that I had written down here. Oh, the final runtime of the movie is 81 minutes only, which is maybe the shortest movie we've ever done on this podcast.
Yeah. Really?
I think so. What else could have been shorter?
I don't know. I'm still looking up whether or not this guy's a dick. Let me see.
Oh, I am wrong. I thought of one movie and I was like, let me check that to see if that's shorter.
Myers
Okay.
pissed off a lot of people, including some really powerful people. Some put up with him because he was a comic genius who made them rich, but even they admit the guy is, quote, difficult. Then, when Myers stopped hitting home runs, his ship started to sink. Odds are good that Myers will eventually come back with another hit. A comeback isn't just possible, but likely. If it never happens, many Hollywood will smile broadly that Myers reaped what he sowed.
Okay, so first of all, the shortest runtime of a movie we've done yet seems to be Mask of the Phantasm, the Batman movie, which was an hour and 16 minutes.
Of pain.
Oh, get the fuck out of here. We're talking about the Cat in the Hat. Do not talk about Mask of the Phantasm right now. I will say, it seems like, yeah, Mike Myers was probably had a bit of an ego and got a little high on his own supply during his time at SNL, during his time with Austin Powers, and thought thought he was king. And
yeah,
maybe it's not that he just disappeared from live action stuff. Maybe it's that a lot of people, he burnt a lot of bridges too, it sounds like.
yeah, 100%. You can't be out there burning bridges.
You can if you can swim, I guess.
Well, cats don't swim, do they, Dylan?
Also, do bridges burn? Like, this isn't the 1700s. Bridges now are made of concrete.
Yeah, I would think that bridges collapse.
Bridges do collapse. You can't be out there collapsing bridges.
Yeah.
That's very terroristic behavior.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They send you to jail for that.
And it sounds like the people were terrorized by Mike Myers.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a terrorist.
All right, enough about that terrorist Mike Myers. Do you want to talk about a fuck ton of mail?
Oh, God, yeah, I suppose I do.
Mail time! When you control the mail, you control information.
Mom asked me to ask you if there's any mail for us here by mistake.
What?
We're going to start with some comments. We've got some comments first on our Carnage episode.
Okay.
So this is from Scott Cameron talking about Carnage. So is this movie about Cletus Cassidy's reign of terror until a red alien symbiote ooze merges with and becomes a supervillain? Interesting. I wonder if Christoph Waltz played the part of Cletus Cassidy better than Woody Harrelson in the second Venom movie. Gav, I'm guessing you did not see the Venom movies.
Right over my head. Next.
Christoph Waltz would have been better. Okay. Got some comments on here. These are from Starship Troopers.
Battlestar Galactica.
Battlestar Galactipoopers. First from Scott Cameron. Dylan picks another Paul Verhoeven classic satire a week after Gab chooses a film from another problematic director. First Woody Allen, then Roman Polanski. Who's next? Bryan Singer? I don't know
who that is.
Oh, Gab. Bryan Singer. He's like the
What
big
did he
man.
do? What did he do?
Suspected diddler.
Oh, interesting. Of whom and what movies?
Well, he did the X-Men movies and Superman Returns most famously.
Okay, I don't care about any of that.
All right, fair enough.
But who did he diddle?
I don't know, but it's been alleged that he parties with underage boys.
Interesting. All right.
I'm sure there's more to it if I actually did a Google right now, but I'm not doing that.
That's okay. We don't got time for that.
Just messing around with some dark humor. Enough of last week's episode to this week's Starship Troopers, a Verhoeven masterpiece. In fact, I'm currently rewatching the movie as I write this comment, and I just happen to remember that this is the second movie I've seen where Sam Fisher has a missing hand. The other is The Machinist, where Fisher loses his hand in a machine shop accident. I don't know the actor.
Okay.
Then we have a comment from Lanola Cola. The only time I ever saw Starship Troopers was on TV while waiting for Alien vs. Predator 2004 to start airing. I caught the end of the film and didn't understand a lick of it. At the very least, a video essay series by Kyle Colgren covering both the original novel by Robert Heinlein and his influence on science fiction, plus some uncomfortable aspects of his writing, and the film and how Verhoeven's attitude to filmmaking and the subject matter was a double-edged sword on how his intended message was imparted on the audience. I think that was like only 2 sentences, that whole paragraph somehow.
Wow.
I read a lot of ands there. Is that all the comments? Gav, I'm telling you, there's so many comments. No, we have comments from Red Eye we never addressed.
Oh boy. Okay.
First from Scotty Cameron with a time code for 1154, which I know what it is because of the context of what he's saying right here. Dylan's right. I would love that reference. That's when I name checked Lauren Lester, who was Robin from Batman the Animated Series.
Okay.
Did you notice that it was last weekend was Batman Day?
I saw it on Scotty Cameron's Instagram today.
Yeah.
From yesterday?
I think it was it was yesterday, which was Saturday the 16th was Batman Day.
Okay, that's cool.
I didn't know. Why not a whole day? Why not a whole week? Batman month.
Sure.
Batman forever.
I was gonna say that.
And with this comment, Batman returns. I'm moving on. I love how Scarecrow and Robin are in the same movie. I've seen Cillian Murphy's audition tape for Batman in Batman Begins, and I must say he'd make a decent Batman. I still think Bale was the better Batman choice than Murphy, and Scarecrow was a better role for Murphy. I can't very well assess Cillian Murphy's attractiveness. I think he's a fine-looking man, though.
Okay.
Can we meet in the middle? Fine-looking?
No.
Go
But
fuck
thank you for
yourself.
asking.
Okay. At 1416, also from Scotty Cameron. Gab is referring to Mason Verger from Hannibal, who was played by Gary Oldman. When you were talking about the guy with the fucked up face from those movies,
Yes.
he played Commissioner Gordon in the Batman movies. Cillian Murphy played Scarecrow in. Hannibal is the sequel to Silence of the Lambs. Red Dragon was the prequel. It's a prequel by sheer virtue that the book Red Dragon was the first Hannibal Lecter novel written, then Silence of the Lambs, then Hannibal, and then Hannibal Rising, which tells Hannibal's origin story. The movie's a bit of an interesting story because Manhunter was the first Hannibal Lecter movie and the first attempt to adapt Red Dragon to film. Then Silence of the Lambs was released a while after. But it wasn't intended to be a sequel to Silence of the Lambs. No, it wasn't intended to be a sequel to Manhunter, and it contradicts Manhunter. Then Hannibal was released following Silence of the Lambs, and after Hannibal came to Red Dragon, was released to be a more faithful adaptation of the Red Dragon novel, and one that would tie into the Hannibal Lecter movies with Anthony Hopkins. So many words. After the 3 Hannibal movies with Hopkins came out, Hannibal Rising was released. After the movies, there was a Hannibal TV show premiere and lasted 3 seasons and mostly told original stories with the characters from the Hannibal Lecter movies. Funny enough, the character Mason Verger appears in the Hannibal show, and his origin story unfolds at the end of season 2. Hannibal season 3 was a loose adaptation of both the novel Hannibal and Red Dragon. That was a lot.
Wow. We and so unnecessary, but thank you, Scotty.
One more from Scotty here, a comment.
Oh boy.
You're sort of right about me not knowing much about New York. I've only been to New York 5 times, only on road trips to Maine. 4 or 5 times I was in New York, it was my dad going, "Hey kids, look out your window. It's New York." Then I looked out my window to see New York and then went back to watching the movie I was watching on the road trip.
New York as in New York City or New York as in the
I
Appalachians?
presume he's talking about New York City then, when he's talking about just that drive portion.
Yeah, but you would drive through, like, where is he driving through? Times Square? No.
No, I assume he's talking about passing by the New York City skyline.
Oh, I understand. Okay, sure.
Also, I'm talking about watching movies on the car ride. It makes me think of, like, when we were young, I remember we briefly had a minivan that had the TVs in the back of the seats. That was luxury. To me, yes, that was the pinnacle. I was like, oh, fuck yeah.
I remember we used to go to, like, Old Country Buffet, which had to be, like, what, 8 minutes from your house tops?
It's no longer Old Country Buffet. But yeah, it was at the time.
What is it now?
Now there's a Chinese buffet across the street that took it over and is running it like it's a regular buffet and calling it Global Buffet. And it's like, listen, you guys do, like, anytime you do buffet, you just want a quantity of food. You're not really caring about the quality. You're like, I'll take medium quality, but a lot of it.
Yes.
If they're doing a Chinese buffet, they're doing medium quality Chinese food at a large quantity. Them trying to do everything else also is like, I'm getting low quality now at a high quantity, and it's not great.
Yeah. But we used to go to Old Country Buffet, or like that area. Like, I believe that's where, what was the comic book store?
Amok Time.
Amok Time, thank you, was, and you know, the flea market and whatever. But we would get in the minivan and we would put a movie on for the 8-minute drive. Like, we would watch The Cable Guy for 8 minutes to
I
drive.
That when I get in the car now, I put on, like, some video that I shouldn't have time to finish on the drive. I'm like, I can't do this with silence.
Right. Of course.
Okay. Back to what Scotty was saying. The only time I was in New York for more than a drive-through or an overnight stay on a road trip to Maine was when my dad took us to Niagara Falls and I got to see it and learn about the historic site, which, when I think of Niagara Falls, you think New York?
Honestly, I think of Canada, and also I've never been and have no desire to go.
Canada, like, there's 2 sides to Niagara Falls. There's the Canadian side and the American side. The Canadian side is the beautiful horseshoe-shaped side, and the American side is like, there's water falling, and it's like ugly looking.
Yeah. Have you been to Niagara Falls?
I have, when I was like 11, 12.
What do you think of when you think Niagara Falls? We'll say it at the same time. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Jim and Pam's wedding.
Oh, I was going to say a more personal thing that I'm glad I did not say now about my brother at the hotel. I was like, did I tell Gab about this?
What happened to Zach at the hotel?
Okay, so that's the nicest hotel room we've ever been in as a family. I remember it had 2 floors, and I remember they had like a Nintendo in the hotel room. We were like, this is amazing. And there was a balcony. And Zach one day goes and stands out on the balcony, butt naked. And he's like, nobody can see me this high up. Living! Like, that type of thing. Then we were out by the Niagara area, and we got they have those like tourist telescope things.
Uh-huh.
And he's looking around and he's like, oh my God, that's our hotel. It was just this realization that like, oh no, people definitely saw that.
Oh my God, that's amazing. Yeah, no, still my mind would go to Jim and Pam's wedding.
Yeah, if you just say Niagara to me, that makes sense.
Oh, well, hold on. Can we like break this wall here for a second?
Sure.
Okay, ready? What do you think of in Niagara Falls? 3, 2, 1.
Bruce Almighty.
Oh, that's a good
Corey, everyone.
The Maid of the Mist, yes.
Yes.
That's a great movie. We could totally do that movie on this podcast.
Oh, that's a great movie.
I guess we can't do it. We've already agreed. So we're not adding it, but Bruce Almighty, moved on before we die.
Yeah, for sure.
Where was I here? To Niagara Falls and got to see it and learn about the historic site. Even then, that visit was still part of a vacation to Maine. It was just a lengthier stay in New York for a Maine trip. My dad is from Maine, so all his relatives lived there. So I was just thinking Albany and Long Island are both in New York when I wrote that Albany was near you. Not really thinking of how far away they are. Just thinking same state. Like if someone were to say Wichita, Kansas and Springfield, Michigan are near me because they are in the same states that the city I live in are a part of. Which throws
Missouri.
me off.
Missouri, not Michigan.
Wait. Oh my God.
Yeah, it's okay. It's a common mistake.
Yes, Missouri.
Yeah.
I am currently in Missouri. The benefits of living in a city divided by a state line, which is weird to me. You can't be in both. You have to be in one state. You can't be in a city that's on the state line. That is all the comments.
Okay. But there is mail.
Gab, of course there's mail. I thought you'd never ask. Okay. So first, we have a message from the one and only King Machine.
What's up?
Greetings, Dylan and Gab. Unfortunately, I'm behind on the pod again. I'll be sure to catch up soon, but not catch up, because ew. Then you'll get to hear all my thoughts. I hope you had a lovely Labor Day weekend. My God, we have not done mail in so long. And don't even try to reason with me on the ketchup thing. Tomatoes are sugar mixed together in a culinary crime that cannot be justified in my mouth. Keep it keen, Keen Machine.
I disagree fully. I actually don't even like French fries that much. I just really love ketchup.
I hate most condiments. And the only condiments that like cross the line for me are like ketchup and barbecue sauce. And I'm like, yeah, I can fuck with ketchup.
Okay, hold on. Speaking of condiments, can you please tell the listeners about why Zach is afraid of mustard?
I don't know if we have a reason for why Zach's afraid of mustard. He just has like a phobia of mustard.
Okay. All right.
And I'll never forget the night where my mom made us dinner and we were all like, oh, this is good. And mom looked at Zach and was like, do you like it, Zach? He was like, yeah, it's pretty good. And she was like, do you know what's in it? He was like, no, what's in it? Mustard. Lots and lots of mustard. And he like ran away like, oh.
I remember what meal that was, by the way. Do you remember what she called it?
No.
Because my mom started making it after that.
No, how do you remember that? Wow.
Because my mom started, it was like my mom started making it. It was hot dogs and baked beans. And you know what your mom called it?
What?
You said beanies and weenies.
Oh my God.
And for a while, my mom was like, yeah, we're having beanies and weenies for dinner.
I can't believe
And
the
it
way
was
you're
made
falling
with
apart at beanies
I
and
know.
weenies.
It's funny. Fuck you. It's funny. Listeners, tell them it's funny. Beanies and weenies. But yeah, there's a lot of mustard in it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway. Okay, we have another. This is how long it's been since we had mail. We have another email from Keen Machine. Caught up.
Oh, great.
Greetings, Dylan and Cab. I've caught up to the present now, which is barely in time for some mail. Carnage sounds like an amazing performance. And it's a previous episode. Carnage sounds like an amazing performance I'd love to see live. If it comes to Broadway, can I come too? I'll be so good you won't even know I'm there, except for the ticket cost. Promise. Anyway, here's to more fun on the way. Hypothetically, Keen, you can come too, and I'll make Gab pay for the ticket. Why not?
Absolutely, but I'm not paying for your flight. Get here on your own.
You know what? That's pretty reasonable.
Yeah.
We got an email. Oh my God, this is a long email.
Oh, fuck.
You know what? I'm going to save this email for a second from now, because first we have an audio message.
Okay.
This is from James Strecker, who We've mentioned James before because James hosts the Jump on the Batwagon podcast, which I've been on before.
Oh, yes.
So I'm going to play what he sent for us here.
Hello, Gabe and Delenn from Babylon 5. I've been listening to random episodes because I'm ashamed to say I actually haven't seen a lot of these movies, despite also being a film school graduate and someone who makes his own movies, but I'm adding a lot to my watch list, so that's something. Gab, you didn't like Mask of the Phantasm. I'm very hurt, but I get it. It's not for everyone, especially if you're not already a Batman fan. You're still wrong, but I get it. However, I cannot excuse Dylan for not liking Hercules. That is a masterpiece. The music is way better than the songs in Mulan. You idiot. Also, I didn't care at all when Aaron Carter died.
Pause on him saying he didn't care about Aaron Carter's death. Not one song from Hercules is relatively near I'll Make a Man Out of You.
Yeah, I would probably have to agree with Dylan.
I'll Make a Man Out of You is arguably the greatest Disney song ever.
I'd have to think about that, but it's up there.
Fuck yeah, it is.
Let's get down.
Even though every time I hear that song, I'm so distracted now by the fake guy who's doing the Eddie Murphy singing. And it's like, we know Eddie Murphy can sing really well, and he just decided not to do it for that. So he's like, this guy's got him scared to death, doing like an Eddie Murphy impression. And you're like, okay.
Do you know why that is? And also, do you know the name of Eddie Murphy's hit? One Hit Wonder, his solo. It's
My Girl Wants to Party All the Time.
Thank you.
I'm so proud of myself right there.
That was great.
If you haven't heard it, you should look up Party All the Time by Eddie Murphy.
It's one of the best songs of all time.
Produced by Rick James.
Of course. Bitch.
Yes, bitch. All right. Continuing.
Also, I didn't care at all when Aaron Carter died, and I already forgot that he had, but the 18s were great and will never be forgotten. Long live the 18s. Yes. If you'll have me, I'd love to come on as a guest to talk about Alien and or Aliens, besides the DC Animated Universe that I talk about all the time on my YouTube channel, The Watchtower Database, as well as our podcast, Jump on the Batwagon, shameless plugs. I'm also a big fan of the Alien franchise, and I could talk about those movies all day, so do it for me, for the listeners, for America. Now it's time for the question of the week, Dylan's favorite part. If you two were Freaky Friday'd and had to switch lives for a day, do you think you, Dylan, could handle Gab's overzealous fitness regimen? And do you, Gab, think you could handle whatever it is that Dylan does? P.S. Trainwreck fucking sucks. And yes, 54,000 is a much funnier number than 50,000.
All right. So I just want to say really quickly that I admire the fucking balls on this guy to be like, I don't really listen to this shit. You're an idiot. You're an idiot. This is right, but you're stupid. Also, let me come on to talk about not one, but two movies that I give a shit about that apparently America would also give a shit about. And by the way, Dylan, you're a lazy piece of shit. Mic drop. Let's bring him on.
Ironically, we've already agreed to bring him on.
That is true.
But now an episode with both Alien movies.
We will, but now I'm doubling down on it. It's good. Do I think I get it? Listen, listener, before we started recording this mail segment, Dylan played me a clip from some CPA exam thing he needs to listen to. And it started with, yo, all my future CPAs. And I can tell you right away, no, I cannot handle that. I couldn't spend one day in that life. Sorry. Dylan, do you think that you could do CrossFit?
Not for a fucking hour, not for a minute, not for a day, not for a second. No, it's not happening. I think like I would try and do those like rapid pull-up things and my arms would just snap out of the joints like I was an action figure and I'd just be there armless like, oh, okay then.
Yeah.
Guess I'll go home.
You know, the other day I thought I had rhabdo. Do you know what rhabdo is?
No.
So it's rhabdomyolysis, and it's a condition where your muscle breaks down so rapidly and it's really painful, and they have to go to the hospital and drain your arms of like the fluid, and you start pissing out muscle fiber, and it's really, really bad because we did so many rope climbs and handstand push-ups that I thought I had rhabdo, but I didn't. But my arms have not been the same since.
There's a lot about CrossFit that sounds like if you just did it a couple hundred years ago, it would just be torture that you're inflicting upon yourself. Like in medieval times, they could have made the people do CrossFit to torture them.
Maybe. I also think so. The cool thing about rhabdo is that you can't get it if you're like relatively new, and you can't get it if you're really, really fit. You can only get it if you like used to be fit and you go back to CrossFit and you just start going like if you take like 5 years off and you come back and you're like, I'm going to go so hard, you'll get rhabdo. So that's why I didn't have it, because I'm consistent in my training. But like,
but
people legitimately
Office, rhabdo only happens to the most medium. The person I most medium suspect is the one who would get rhabdo.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, exactly. That was amazing.
Yeah, I think you'd have an easier. Although I guess in this situation, I am you, so I guess I'm physically fit enough to attempt it. I just won't enjoy it. And if you are me, you don't get my knowledge of accounting, which is minimal. So I think you'd still have. No, we're both gonna have a bad time.
Yeah, we wouldn't like it. We wouldn't like it. I'd love hanging out with Giselle though.
Corey and I will talk about Batman. It'll be fun. Yeah.
Yeah, we'd be okay. Work would be a problem.
Work would be a problem for both of us. Work's already a problem though. So.
Yeah, that's true. I wake up at 4:00 in the morning though. So.
All right. So, oh God, I wake up at 6:30 and that's way too early. All right.
That sounds nice.
Let us get to one long email.
Oh boy. All right.
For Starship Troopers.
Oh God.
From Scotty Cameron.
Oh God.
Star Trek 14. The Star Wars. I mean Starship Troopers. Hey Dylan and Gab, great show as always. I'm glad you both found Starship Troopers a movie to watch before you die. The movie's a classic, and it's a shame it was a box office bomb. Movie has to make 2 to 2.5 times its production budget to accommodate for the marketing expenses, and with the theater's take from box office earnings, averages out at 50%. So any movie that fails to make that within the production budget 2 to 2.5 times window is considered a failure. I think I've said something along the lines of cutting it close when it came to the box office earnings. Just wanted to kindly point out how the box office works, because in fairness, I didn't understand how it worked until a year ago. Quality and profitability are two separate things, as Vampire's Kiss taught us. On to the actual quality of Starship Troopers, I love this movie. It tickles all my Star Trek and Star Wars fanboy tummy feathers. Please never use the term tummy feathers again, I don't like it. From the Federation spaceships resembling those of the Galactic Empire, to the fact that the United Citizen Federation and Starship Troopers and the United Federation of Planets in Star Trek are both called the Federation for short. Also, hearing captains refer to the officers as number 2 or number 4 reminds me of Star Trek The Next Generation. I can just picture Patrick Stewart saying to Jonathan Frakes, "Make it so, number 1," or "Belay that order, number 1, red alert." Also, I can't help but think of the dead troopers as the red shirts, which is an old Star Trek The Original Series joke. Also, did it really take so much ammunition to kill the bugs, or do the Federation troopers have stormtroopers aim, since the bugs are such large targets you can be a lousy shot and still kill them? You just waste ammo in the process. I do think, from my memory of the movie, that they are difficult to kill because you have to hit them in a very precise placement. The bugs, right? You could shoot off all their limbs and they'd still be like alive. You just have to hit them directly in like their middle tiny brain area.
Yeah. It took a real marksman. Otherwise, you were just shooting for as long as you could sustain it.
I imagine a headshot would kill the standard grunt bugs. The bigger bugs would require more ammo to take out or more powerful weapons. Here I am overthinking a movie. Also, they don't really technically have heads. Yeah. I also can't help but note some similarity Starship Troopers has to video games I've played, such as Halo, Mass Effect, and Gears of War, which I'd recommend to any gamer who loves Starship Troopers. Curious to read the novel to know if it was intended to satirize a fascist utopia or actually romanticize one, or if the association with fascism was a complete misrepresentation of the novel. I've seen all three things claimed when looking up information on the novel. I will say if you love Star Wars and Starship Troopers, then I would highly recommend Star Trek because there's so much mutual DNA in the three titles.
Can't do it, sorry,
Mr. Krebs. What? No?
No.
Star Trek is like Doctor Who in the sense that it's been on for far too many decades for me to say, yeah, I'll start that now. It's never going to happen.
Yeah, no.
Clancy Mr. Krabs Brown was in all three titles. He's Sergeant Zim in Starship Troopers, Ryder Azazi in Ahsoka and Star Wars Rebels, and Savage Opress in Star Wars The Clone Wars, and Zobril in Star Trek Enterprise. Dylan, I'm going to call you out for missing some Batman references when you forgot to mention that Clancy Brown was Mr. Freeze in 2004's The Batman, a show he also voiced Lex Luthor in. Neil Patrick Harris was Nightwing in Batman Under the Red Hood. Fun fact, Neil Patrick Harris was also Spider-Man in 2003's Spider-Man, the new animated series, and the video game Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions.
Fun fact, I used to wait tables at this restaurant on Broadway and 97th Street called Big Daddy's, and one time Neil Patrick Harris came in with his husband and his kids, and after he left, I drank the rest of his soda out of his cup with his straw, so we've essentially made out.
Wait, why? Why did you drink Neil Patrick Harris's cup?
I don't remember, but I was like, yeah, I'll do it.
Like, no matter how much I like the celebrity, I'm not sure if I would drink out of a stranger's cup like that.
I'm going to be honest with you. I don't even like Neil Patrick Harris that much.
Was he nice?
Yeah, super nice.
Oh, that's good to know. I feel like
yeah. And nice. Now we know does not have herpes.
Thank God Gab didn't drink from the cup before he did.
Yeah. Hey.
And this was a bit obscure, but I'm mentioning it because I'm a stinker. Michael Ironside was the Dark Knight Returns Batman in the new Batman Adventures episode, Legends of the Dark Knight. Lastly, the cover art for Robert Heinlein's Starship Troopers novel was provided by artist inker Jerry Robinson, who provided the inks to Bob Kane's pencils for the original Batman comics and actually named the Joker, because Bill Finger and Bob Kane were struggling to name the villain they based off Conrad Veidt's The Man Who Laughs. Robinson also came up with the Joker's playing card gimmick and convinced Bill Finger not to kill off the Joker in his first appearance. That's all, folks. And in case I don't see you again, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, Scotty.
Ooh, that wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be.
We have caught up on so much mail. Scotty, thank you for, like, we're giving you shit, but
yeah, we love you.
You keep this mailboat afloat.
Yeah, you're keeping the lights on in this podcast.
All right. Should we get to the verdicts for The Cat in the Hat?
I mean, yeah. Best movie ever. Let's go.
Do or do not. There is no try.
The guilty will be punished.
Sentence is death.
Listen, this movie will never go down in history as one that should be remembered as a work of cinematic genius. This is not a movie that will be remembered for its life-altering performances, and it's not a movie that's going to give anybody any sort of like deeper insight into the industry. But God damn it, if it's not a fun, quick watch. I think it's got a lot of one-liners. I think it is a pleasant ride from beginning to end. And I think if you take off your film critic hat for a moment and put on your childhood delight and wonder sunglasses, you'll enjoy it. Dylan, why don't you tell the people what a fucking high horse fucking piece of egomania you are.
Well, Gab, from the man who played Shrek comes one giant wreck. The Cat is supposed to be fun, but I found myself done. While the movie is under 90 minutes and lean, that makes it no more keen. The set design is fine, but the movie is by no means divine. By no means, Gab, am I a quitter, but during the majority of this movie, I would have rather been on Twitter. Here's what I know. Is this a movie to watch? It is not. I say no. It just... Mike Myers is going to laugh a lot more during this movie than you are. It's not very fun. My childhood delight is dead. I think if I showed a child this movie, I don't know if the child would laugh enough. It was tough. This was a tough watch. It got significantly worse once the cat arrived, and I was like, "Oh no!"
Oh,
it was really.
I knew you were gonna be like this.
You know what's funny is I knew that this was a major box office bomb. So, Gab, I'm going to be honest with you. I tried so hard to go into this with the most positive mindset. I was like, I want to give this movie some room. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And
so I was really generally like, oh, I really like Sally so far. Oh, and Conrad's good so far. And oh, I like Mr. Humberflube. I'm very interested to see where this all goes. And once the cat came in, I was like, oh no.
Yeah.
I tried.
Yeah, I mean, listen, this is a movie with no substance and a couple of quick one-liners that are funny. I think what was great about this movie was that you didn't really have to watch it to appreciate what was happening. And I think it does a really good job of holding your attention because of how fast things are changing. You're never in a scene for very long. And like I said, you don't have to really follow closely. So for the time period that this was, a factor in my life, I enjoyed the silliness. But, outside of my nostalgia for it, I mean, it's not a great movie. I understand that. But I still think that it is better than most people give it credit for.
I do think it just goes to show the power of nostalgia that, you still quote this movie, fired, you're still doing that. I think that's so cool. Meanwhile, me and my brother are still doing recess schools out. Don't do it, Dr. Benedict. Don't do it after all this time and planning. Just don't do it. There are these movies that both of us have agreed, no, those were terrible. And it's just but you still, I can't, nothing I could say about this movie would have taken your love away for this movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Right.
And there are things to like about it. The movie looks really good 90% of the time, I think. Yeah.
Well, listen, we tried. Fuck it, we tried. That's what Corey and I always say.
You gave it the old college try.
We did. All right, Dill. Well, anybody who wants to send us in a little bit of mail, you can send an email to movies-to-watch-before-you-die@gmail.com. You can send a voice note at movies.fm/nope.
Anchor.fm/movies-to-watch is where you can send the voice messages. And I want to start doing this. We should thank Scott Interrante for doing the music for this podcast. And we should thank Brian Maneely for his artwork for this podcast.
Yeah. And thank me for being on the podcast.
No.
And you, I guess.
You get no thanks for being here. You wanted to be here.
I do every week. Thank you so much for listening. If you have a movie suggestion, please let us know. We might get to it. Dylan, with less than a minute to go, do you know what you want to do next week?
I thought we were doing Big next week with Corey.
Oh, fuck. Is that okay?
I thought that's what we agreed on.
Oh, I wasn't trying to force that on you.
I'm fine with it.
All right. Corey's never seen Big. What kind of fucking bullshit is that?
From the woman who hasn't seen Rocky or Jaws, who's never seen Big.
Bye.
So what do we do?
Well, there are 2 treatments I'd recommend. One is a series of painful shots injected into your abdomen and kneecaps. And the other involves a musical number. Me, 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 meow.
How many shots?
How many shots? Aren't you precious?